Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so OKC, Dallas Mavericks game one is tomorrow, May the 7th at 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. For those who are interested in watching game one, I did a little homework on this series, and I think I got an understanding of how I want to lean in regards to my prediction. First of all, you're talking about a team in Dallas that lost 3 out of the 4 games that they played the OKC Thunder in. Thing about it is they were missing key people in all of those lost games. You're talking about Luka the Don missing the final game, and Kyrie Irving and everybody else, because they pretty much benched everyone at the final game of the season where they played the Thunder, and the Thunder blew them out by like 50 points. But they had a bunch of G Leaguers playing that game. In the second to last matchup, the third matchup they had, you're talking about a Dallas team that killed them in the paint. I think it was like 33-2, and then killed them on the boards by at least 18 boards, and they had everybody playing. Kyrie, Luka the Don specifically were on the floor. Hardaway, all of those guys were available, and the Dallas Mavericks were able to get the victory. In the first 2 matchups, you had one game where Luka the Don was out there without Kyrie Irving, and this was back when they were starting Seth Curry. He was still on the team. I think that was the first matchup. In the second matchup, I believe Kyrie Irving was available and Luka was not, and Kyrie went rampant on them but still lost by like 9 points. So that's kind of how it's been between these two teams. Thunder have not seen the Mavericks fully healthy but once, and when they did, they were destroyed in the paint, specifically just destroyed. So that's really where it comes down to in regards to what I'm looking at. I look at that front court of the Thunder, and I'm a bit concerned. Obviously, you want to talk about the length of a guy like Chet Holmgren. He's averaging 2 blocks. He's definitely an offensive force as well. But he's a light in the pocket. He's a rookie. Or I ain't going to say a real rookie, because he did have a year where he was sitting on the bench last year with the Thunder to kind of get used to the NBA, but you know how that goes. He's a Ben Simmons-like rookie, and this year is a year where he's still trying to figure, how to deal with physical players and how to deal with stronger bigs. I don't like that for him in this particular series, because you're going up against Lively, who played well against him in the first game. Early on in the season, he had like 9 for 9 from the field, a double-double. This was back when he was really getting started, well before they got P.J. Washington and Gafford. But now you got to deal with those two as well. And that's a lot to throw at a team that really doesn't have a center position that they can count on their bench. They got Biyombo, but I'm not sure how he's doing after having that scare earlier in the season where he kind of collapsed over on the bench. I don't know if they're using him at all. And then I look at a guy like Jay Will, the other Jalen Williams besides the one that they have starting in their starting position. He's kind of like a 4, even though he does block shots. He can play some physical ball. I don't trust him to necessarily be able to match up with a guy like Daniel Gafford or P.J. Washington. So, they're running a little small. They got J-Dub playing power forward at times in their starting lineup so that they can fit everybody in, since they have such a fantastic starting unit. They kind of run J-Dub, who I think is a natural 3 at the 4 spot. I don't think that's going to work against P.J. Washington. PJ should likely be able to push him around for boards. So while I like OKC in the open court, I do not like them in a half court setting in this series, and they're going to need to be able to defend in the half court setting against Kyrie Irving and Luka the Don and PJ and those guys. It's going to get tough for the OKC Thunder if they don't keep the pace pushing. You got to be snap, play fast, and be quicker to 50-50 balls at all times. That's what's going to be necessary. And I just don't know if they can keep Kyrie specifically out of the paint. I know how serious of a threat Chet is blocking shots. I get that. But I don't see them being able to stop Kai. And Luka Don does whatever he wants at all times. We know he's a big-time superstar. I do think a lot of what his production will be is going to be matched by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, also another superstar. They're kind of going to be doing the same things out there. They're both going to be going for 37 to 40 points a night. They're both going to be looking to be high-level execution players down the stretch of basketball games. All of that is just, they're going to cancel each other out. Luka Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if they're playing like they're supposed to play, will cancel one another out. The question is, the second best player on either team and the third best player on either team, are they going to cancel each other out, or are you going to have some days where certain guys are not going to play as well? Now, obviously, Kyrie Irving is going to play well every night in theory. And like I said, he's shown what he could do against this team. In that second matchup, he just went completely crazy on them. So that right there concerns me. I look at a guy like Josh Giddey as an important piece in this series in the sense that he's going to have to rebound the ball tight, try to control the boards from his position. And he's going to have to play fantastic defense against whoever's in front of him. And, of course, not turn the ball over, do some scoring and things of that nature. They can't really afford for him to have 0 for 7 type games. They're going to need Josh Giddey to play well. Obviously, J-Dub is a player that we know he doesn't really have any weaknesses at all, to be honest with you. I just hate the fact that he has to play the 4 spot against a guy like P.J. Washington or, whoever they'll use at that 4 spot. Maxi Kleber's out for the foreseeable future. I don't know what's the latest with his shoulder, but that injury did occur in the final game that they played against the Clippers. I actually saw that injury live. It was tough. He fell hard on his shoulder really awkwardly and then came back, shot some free throws, tried to play in the game, and he couldn't return. I think I'm not a doctor, but I would say it would have probably been best for him to exit the game immediately instead of trying to run on it. I don't know if he made it worse. Who knows? But he's not expected to be available for game 1. That's an important piece for the Dallas Mavericks in their size advantage over the OKC Thunder. Now, the OKC Thunder have home court advantage. Obviously, they've been the better team in terms of record. They completely obliterated my prediction in regards to beating the New Orleans Pelicans. They swept them. I figured they would win the series, but probably like 6 or 7. It didn't go down that way. I also thought that Zion would be returning. He did not, so that had a lot to do with ultimately the outcome there. But I just really think that the OKC Thunder have proven themselves to be a legitimate contender this season. Been nearly at the top of the West all year long with them, Denver, and of course Minnesota. And you have to take that into account when seeing them going up against anybody this season. They're one of the best teams in basketball with home court advantage in the series. And plenty of depth. Guys like Gordon Hayward and Aaron Wiggins. So many different players. As I said, Jay Williams coming off the bench. I can't think of the guy's name, but a power forward that comes to mind, that they use. They have so many different players on that team. Keshawn Wallace, it's so many, man. Shooters beyond imagination. I mean, it goes on and on with OKC Thunder in terms of their depth and contributors. But I don't know how much of that is going to work against the Dallas Mavericks, who have such powerful superstars coming at you, who are likely going to be playing 40 minutes a game consistently. Who is guarding these people? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to have his hands full trying to guard one of those 2 superstars. I'd imagine, I'm not really great at matchups. I don't really predict them as well as some of these other experts, but I would imagine you would try to find somebody big who you can put on Luka Doncic. Got to throw different looks at him. Maybe you try J-Dub sometimes. It becomes a tricky situation. Obviously, you have Josh Giddey, who maybe you can kind of throw on Luka here and there. Shai is going to obviously have his looks against Luka, but you don't want him getting in foul trouble because you're going to need him on the other end. So that becomes a little tricky for me in regards to OKC and how they match up against Dallas. And in Dallas, it becomes a situation where is Shai going to go completely rampant on a guy like Josh Green? Can he stay in front of Shai? Kyrie Irving is going to have a hard time with his matchup because these are bigger guys. Although I thought he played some really good defense against the Clippers, to be honest with you. I thought Kyrie's defense was as good as it's ever been against the Clippers. That's going to have to carry over against these fantastic, fast-paced guards that are going to be playing for the Thunder. All these ball handlers who are going to get out, make plays for one another. They play well off one another. getting the ball to some of those shooters off of the bench that the OKC Thunder has. It's going to be very important that they get Tim Hardaway back. I understand that he's day-to-day at the moment. He's going to have to come in healthy and play a great series for the Mavericks and be a top contributor. P.J. Washington is obviously a massive contributor these days to what they do. If they can get 30-point P.J., that'll definitely go a long way in helping them keep up with the scoring that we expect the Thunder to provide. So that's what I'm looking at. P.J. Washington, Tim Hardaway Jr., role players. Daniel Gafford controlling the glass, getting easy buckets, catching lobs, blocking shots. Very important for Gafford to have a big series and impose his will. Derek Lively with the minutes given. Those bigs will determine a lot. If they can control the boards and keep the OKC Thunder at bay, keep them out of the paint, for which they had great success in the one win they had against this team. I think if they can get a game in OKC early, they will take control of this series. But if they don't, if they let OKC get the first 2 games at home, that pretty much sealed the deal. Even if you tie the series, it's going to be very difficult to come back to OKC after losing 2 in a row and getting a third one in that imposing arena where it's pretty much a university atmosphere. Especially with a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander down there, it's going to be tough. I'm trying to close him out, particularly at home. So, with them having home court advantage, if you're the Dallas Mavericks, you, in my opinion, have to steal one or both of the first 2 games in OKC. That is so important for you. And really, what it comes down to for me, it's just Dallas's ability to score in the paint, rebound the ball, and continue to keep Luka Doncic out of foul trouble and off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is cooking, it could be a long series for the Dallas Mavericks, especially if they run cold. But I do trust that Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic will probably be the more efficient players on the floor than, say, J-Dub and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, of course, you got to take into account other pieces that they have. If Kason Wallace comes off the bench and plays well. I can't think of young fella's name, but he's such a fantastic shooting guard. It's a 3-letter name. I can't think of what it is right now. I want to say Lee, but that's not what it is. But you want these guys to be able to come off the bench and play well for the OKC Thunder and impose your will as the deeper team with more guards, more scoring threats, in my opinion. A guy like Gordon Hayward with the minutes given is going to have to make plays for other people, get other people involved, do the things that he does, get involved. Obviously, he's a little over, kind of an older guy at this point. You don't expect him to be a superstar, but if he can have a big game off the bench, maybe 15 points off the bench in 1 or 2 of these games, it'll go a long way in helping the OKC Thunder get this series. So, yeah, man, I'm just looking at this team, the OKC Thunder, and I see opportunities for them to strike, especially if Chet Holmgren goes off. Chet Holmgren has been such a fantastic offensive threat from behind the arc. You take the ball off the dribble, stretch the floor in such a way that makes it really difficult to guard him. And I don't necessarily see his perfect matchup in this series. You'll probably see them put P.J. Washington on him. P.J.'s a little too short to guard him. P.J.'s 6'10", something like that. We're talking about Chet Holmgren, who's like 7'3". Maybe you got Derek Lively trying to stretch out to the paint, outside of the paint to try to guard him. I don't know, but if Chet Holmgren's hovering around the perimeter, hitting threes and taking people off the dribble and drawing fouls, that gives the OKC Thunder a tremendous advantage in this series, especially if he can get some of those rebounding and interior scoring bigs off the floor by way of drawing fouls. So I think Chet Holmgren is a real X factor. Obviously, he's a star in this series, but he's an X factor because I think if he hovers around 10, 15 points, that's not going to get it done. But if he can get upwards of 30 points, 25, 30 points or higher, I think they're going to probably win whatever that game is. So Chet Holmgren is extremely important, not only in his interior defense and his ability not to foul, but of course on the offensive end, scoring and drawing fouls against others. And of course, J-Dub. If J-Dub is going crazy, let's say J-Dub is having a phenomenal series, going off for like 25 points, 8 assists, 10 rebounds, that just furthermore pushes the emphasis on Dallas getting more out of their role players. They need to have him not play that well. And so that's the thing. I think the ceiling of the surrounding 5 of the OKC Thunder goes up a bit higher than the ceiling of the Dallas Mavericks, which is why OKC has been the better team all year long. But I think the Mavericks pose some serious threats with the two players that they have attacking the Mavericks from possession to possession. It almost reminds me in a different way of the New York Knicks series versus the Pacers, where you can see the Pacers being able to push the pace and ultimately outscore the Knicks, but you ultimately see the Knicks being able to have more quality possessions, play better defense, and ultimately, I picked the Knicks in 7. I think I kind of see this series a little bit that way, similarly in some ways. But the one thing I can say about the Dallas Mavericks is they're a tremendously improved defensive team. They play a lot better defense than they did earlier in the season, and certainly better defense than they were able to last year, with the insertion of PJ and Gafford and Omax Prosper and all these different dudes that can really help on that side of the ball. Green, much improved defensively. It just makes them an overall better team. Derek Jones Jr., another player that's very important. I'd imagine he's going to be taking on assignments like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and J-Dub as well at times. I think both of these teams will be giving their stars different looks. That's what I think. It's going to be multiple guards on various stars. So Derek Jones is somebody I'm definitely looking at to muck the game up, get block shots, rebound the ball, steals, all that stuff. If he's having a big series, that's going to help the Dallas Mavericks tremendously. So yeah, man, that's what I'm looking at. I like this series a lot. It should be a fun one. Luka the Don, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Who's the better player? You know, this series will determine a lot of people's opinions. I mean, Shai was been nearly at the top of the MVP list all year long. So has Luka the Don. Obviously, both of those teams have tremendous international superstars and tremendous high-level co-stars as well. And J-Dub, Chet Holmgren, and of course Kyrie Irving on the other end. And a guy like P.J. Washington who's capable of elevating his game to match the progress of what or production rather of what one of those other guys will do, Josh Giddey or somebody like that. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I think both of these teams are going to have to elevate, play better they did in the previous series in order to win this one. This is definitely not a Zion-less Pelicans for the Thunder to go up against. And the Clippers, I thought were a worthy opponent, and Dallas did a great job of beating them in 6, but I think it's going to take a lot more to close out this very young and energetic Thunder team that's probably going to look to get out in the open court and run fantastic fast break plays. That's what I see there. Just a lot of togetherness with the OKC Thunder. A lot of shooting also with the Thunder. So, yeah, man. I think, to be honest with you, home court has a lot to do with my opinion here. I do think the Thunder are going to stretch this series out. And it could probably go all the way to 7, depending on how those first 2 games go. Whoever wins the first, if one team wins the first 2 games, I'm going to pick that team to win the series. But if for some reason there's a split, I could totally see this series going 6 or 7. And I do think Luka the Don is going to pull out the win. I believe personally Luka the Don's the best player on the floor for both teams. I think Shai is a slightly behind him. I mean, it's ever so slight. But I think both of those players are 2 of the best players in basketball and will probably retire as 2 of the best players of their generation for certain. And I think this legacy building series will help us define them properly to where they are right now. So hopefully we get fantastic health from both teams. I would hate to think that health would determine this series because both teams are going into it fairly healthy. But there's one thing that really concerns me about the OKC Thunder, and that's just what happens if Chet Holmgren gets in foul trouble or he's not playing well. What happens to that paint? And the answer is it opens up dramatically. I do not see an answer of keeping Kyrie out of the paint, Luka the Don out of the paint, and because their players can shoot the ball very well, just like OKC can, I think that the advantage is there. But, you know, the Thunder are going to have to try to keep them out of the paint. That's what I know. They're going to have to try to control the boards and have to try to keep them out of the paint at all costs. And if the Thunder are able to successfully do that, the Thunder will win the series. So whoever controls the paint controls the series. And I'm inclined to believe that Kyrie's going to get in there and muck things up by finishing at a high level, getting to the line consistently, and Luka the Don is going to play off of wherever takes place in that regard. But I really do think this is a Kyrie series. I really believe that. Luka Doncic is just a phenomenal player, man. If he goes off for 60 points in any one of these games, no one should be surprised. A lot of what he does is off of the perimeter. He can also get in the paint, as we know. He do whatever he wants, pretty much. And so I don't want people to think that I'm confused about who's the leader of the Dallas Mavericks. But I just look at this as a Kyrie finish in the paint kind of series. Scoop layups, dart around all over the place, just like he did against the Clippers. He's going to constantly push the envelope and put pressure on the rim against these Thunder. And I don't know if the Thunder really have the personnel to do anything about that. I really doubt it. And on the other end, the advantage for the Thunder is that open court. Steal and get out in the break. You know, with J-Dub, Giddey, Shea, get out in the break. Try to keep this from being a half-court game, a series for yourselves. Stay out of the half-court as much as humanly possible. If I'm the OKC Thunder, I don't want to play in the half-court. Can't stress that enough. So that's really what it is, man. I just see too much size for the Dallas Mavericks to pick against them right now. I'm going to go Dallas in 7. Dallas in 7, Dallas in 6. Depends on how they start the series. If somewhere in between there, I land on 7 just to be on the safe side, but I could totally see it going 6, because if they win one of the first 2 games and happen to get a stranglehold on this series, that 6th game is a closeout game at home. I expect Dallas to take that game. That's the only reason why I would go that route. But because OKC Thunder has the home court advantage, I'm going to give them the leeway to believe that the series will path out to where their last game will end in Dallas. I mean, in OKC, excuse me. So that's what I want to say, man. Dallas in 7. I just trust Kyrie and Luka in this situation. I don't trust the OKC Thunder's ability to keep them out of the paint or rebound over them consistently for 7 games. I don't. They may be able to pull it off for 1 or 2 games, but not for the 4 necessary to win the series. I'm more inclined to believe that Luka and Kyrie are going to impose their will, and that the size of Lively, Washington, and ultimately Gafford are going to be a big problem for a deeper Thunder team, but not much deeper than Dallas. Not that much deeper. So I think that both teams need to be careful not to overshoot the 3, either one of them. They do have shooters down there that can launch. The paint is really where you need to be able to control things. So that's really what it is, man. All bets are off if you have big games from key guys. Or all bets are off if Holmgren's going for 40 or if J-Dub is going for triple doubles. All bets could be off. But if all things are considered what they are, I'm going to go with the Dallas Mavericks. So that's really what it is, man. Dallas in 7. I'll roll with that. We'll see how this ages. I've been wrong about what happens with both of these teams. I picked against what really took place in both of their series last. So, you know, I'm not 100% certain. I'm certainly not an expert on these teams. And, you know, I definitely think the world of both of them at the end of the day. They're both worthy of being contenders. I'm not surprised that Dallas is where they are. I told people that I thought they were a real contender as soon as they made the trades for those 2 centers in Gafford and Washington. And so now that they're in this position, you know, they're worthy of being here. And so there's no shame in losing in the second round. This is kind of where good teams fall off and great teams take steps forward. So it's nothing wrong with either one of these teams being knocked off by one another. I think you should keep your head high and feel like this is a pretty successful season either way. Just got to make a good series out of this thing, both teams. So that's really what it is. I expect just that. I'm looking forward to it. And that's pretty much my prediction. Dallas in 7, BDF 44. I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.